what you want your life to be a comedy. Not that it's supposed to be funny, because comedy doesn't have to be funny, technically speaking. It's just the opposite of tragedy. Tragedy is when you're going along pretty well and you get blindsided, and that's that. And you know, that can certainly happen. It happens to people all the time. But it's a comedy you want. Now, what I hope to provide you with is a magic code. You know, there was a book published a while back. Tom Hanks was in the movie. He was a Harvard professor who went around solving symbolic mysteries. Do you remember, what was it called? The Da Vinci Code. Everyone liked that. It sold a lot. And you know, it was full of little mysteries, and it was full of hints that there was more to the world than you think, and which is definitely true. And that, you know, there was a way of getting access to that knowledge, and that it would really be worthwhile. And people like that, they like that idea. And the reason for that is because it's actually, it's true. It's true. It's true like fiction is true. So okay, let's go back to the guy who's telling you about his morning. Well, he tells you something exciting. Well, then imagine that 10 people tell you something exciting. And then you extract out the pattern of them dealing with this problem from that. And so then you have a, that's what you do if you're an author. Right? Because in a book, you don't want the book exactly to be about what ordinary people do in ordinary times in their life. It's like, you already know how to be ordinary during ordinary times of your life. That's not useful. You know, you wouldn't watch a videotape of yourself. Imagine you videotaped yourself during a day, and then next day you watched that. It's like, God, who would want to do that? So what seems to happen in stories is that they distill. So they watch people watch people, and then they tell stories about what they see, but they leave a lot out of those stories. Everything that's boring, hopefully. And then more and more stories about exciting things get sort of aggregated, and then maybe a great writer comes along and writes something really, really interesting. Profound character transformations. And then you say, well, that's fiction. And then you say, well, that's not true, because it's fiction. But then maybe that's not right. Maybe it's more than true. Because who wants the truth? The truth is mundane reality, and you've already got that mastered. What you want is the distillation of interesting experience. And you might think, well, why is it interesting? Well, that's a really good question, because you don't actually know. And believe me, you really don't know, because you'll be interested in things that just don't make any sense at all. I'm going to walk you a bit today through Pinocchio, and we'll do that more the next time too. You know, but I want to tell you a little bit about that movie to begin with, just so you know how crazy you are. So, you know the plot. How many people have seen the Disney movie Pinocchio? Okay, so lots of people. So that's strange enough in itself that so many people have seen it, and it's worth thinking about. You know, you tend to show your kids that movie. But you think about the movie, you're doing some pretty weird things when you're sitting there watching that movie, man. First of all, it's drawings. Right, and they're low resolution drawings. You don't care, and you watch The Simpsons, or maybe what's that called? The one that's been concentrating on political correctness so much. South Park. God, that animation, man, it's just awful. Right, it's just horrible. It couldn't be worse. You don't care. Like round heads, smile, a little bit of shuffling. That's a person as far as you're concerned. It's just irrelevant, and if it was higher resolution, it wouldn't help. You just need the bare bones, right, to hang your perceptions on. So you watch this drawing, that's Pinocchio, beautiful drawings, animated in a sequence. You're not watching something real, you're watching a pure construction. And then you think about the plot, it's like, it's completely absurd. Everything about it is absurd. It's like, well, one of the characters is a bug, and he turns out to be like the conscience, and so what the hell is with that? And then another character is this puppet, marionette, and you know, somehow he gets free of his strings and then goes on this adventure, and then you know, he gets enticed into various nefarious places by a fox and a cat, and then he rescues his father from a whale, and you don't even know how his father got in the whale. It's like the last time you see his father, he was in a rainstorm, and the next thing that happens is he's in a whale, and you're sitting there thinking, hey, no problem, this all makes sense. It's like, what, really? Why? How does that make sense? Well, the answer is you don't know. That's the thing that's so cool. You don't know. You don't even know what you're watching. But it doesn't matter. You watch it and you're interested in it. You want to see what the hell happens to this puppet. You want to see if he ends up becoming a real boy. Because it seems important. Well, you say, well, is Pinocchio true? Well, that's a stupid question. It's partly a stupid question because the answer is it depends on what you mean by true. And it isn't obvious to me what you should mean when you say that something's true. And the reason it's not obvious is because we have this idea in our society, and it's a very profound idea, and that idea is that the ultimate truth is scientific truth. That tells us about the nature of the world, and it does that in a final way in some sense. There's no brooking any arguments about it, and the physicists have got it right, and that's why they can make hydrogen bombs, and that's a pretty good demonstration of their being right. But you don't act as if that's true, and you watch things and pay attention to things and are captivated by things that aren't predicated on those assumptions. And it seems to me that there is a problem of what the world is made out of, but there's a bigger problem, and that's the problem of how you should conduct yourself in the world.